Expand your mind and enrich your world. It's time for another outstanding podcast from ICRT. This is Taiwan Talk.
This is Taiwan Talk on ICRT.
Asia's largest computer show is kicking off today in Taipei and will run for the rest of the week. Computex will feature 1,700 exhibitors from Taiwan and abroad and is going to present advancements in hardware and applications. On Taiwan Talk today, we'll be talking to a rep from one of the show's big presenters, Ford Motor Company. Now, you might be asking yourself, what do cars have to do with consumer electronics? Well, it turns out quite a lot. And joining us now to help us understand that relationship and to tell us what it is Ford will be showing off this year is Dr. K. Venkatesh Prasad. He's a senior technical leader, open innovation at Ford Motor Company. Dr. Prasad, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you.
So you're responsible for overseeing the design of the electronics and software that drivers will find on the Ford cars that will be on display this week. Can you help us understand what we're talking about here? What kind of new technologies is Ford putting inside these cars?
Well, I'd say the one that stands out most is the ability to use your cell phone or your mobile phone in a hands-free manner. And, of course, along with that comes interesting interfaces to enable that with an added convenience, such as voice recognition or speech recognition technology, and associated with all that comes the ability to select and play music either by title or genre or any other way that you might choose to do so, but really using voice to enable search. So that's pretty powerful. And then you have a whole set of related technologies that enable a more effective touch and user interface that adds to the conveniences and comfort to the driver and passengers.
Touching on those technologies that you're talking about right now, what are some of the major areas that have been developed in the last couple of years?
Yeah, I think there's a whole family of technologies centered around what we sometimes refer to as smart technologies, and smart spans a broad range of capabilities, both in terms of what might add to the comfort and convenience of the driver and passengers, in terms of music and sort of entertainment types of features, but also features that allow an added convenience for the driver in terms of their primary task of being able to get from A to B safely. And so there's a whole lot of conveniences associated, whether it's backup sensors or whether it's blind spot detection. There's a whole set of integrated sensing capabilities that cars have now. And so that adds to assisting the driver do their job, and therefore adds to the overall comfort and convenience of the journey. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention the underlying platform technologies that are also going in.
And so that would be the software and the applications?
Software, the applications, but also the hardware, the number of computing units and the network sort of nature of those computing units and modules in cars. That capability has been growing steadily. So it wasn't too long ago when, perhaps 2 or 3 decades ago, and therefore this is pretty long, but you had one microprocessor in the car, and that was a big thing. And it was primarily used to control the air-fuel ratio in the car because of regulations that came in to control emissions. Today you have people use numbers that go anything from 20 to 30 microprocessors to 50 to 100 and 150 microprocessors. It depends on how you count those, because a lot of the parts in automobiles are in fact supplied by our partners who integrate subsystems. So depending on what unit you're counting, you might find a large range of the numbers associated with computing elements in cars, but it's certainly not 1 and 2 and 3. It's more in the order of 30 and 40. And so that provides a very rich computing environment. And so there's been a lot of progress in the underlying capabilities of that networked computing environment in the vehicle, and therefore that whole hardware platform and the embedded software platform.
So you're talking about more and more computing power being available in, the average car for the driver. Would you say that this is becoming a more and more important part of car development and car design, making this computing power available?
Oh, absolutely. I've sort of, I moved from the Bay Area I used to work in Menlo Park and moved out to Dearborn, Michigan. I live in Ann Arbor, Michigan, but that was 18 years ago. And in those years, we could count the number of processors in cars, and networking systems were fairly straightforward, relatively speaking, compared to what they are today. But there's been such a rapid evolution and growth of not just the computing power of automobiles, but also most certainly the power of consumer electronics, the kinds of devices people bring into the cars and expect to just sort of see working with the automobile or the car environment. And so you have this coming together of what's built in along with what's brought in. And of course, the cloud is not keeping quiet, and so you have all kinds of things being beamed in. And so we like to refer to that as the built-in, brought-in, beamed-in environment. So it's a very exciting design space, and it's a real exciting consumer space, no question about that.
So going back up to the present day, what are some of the technologies that Ford is going to be introducing at Computex this year?
Well, I'd say we've got new capabilities in our cars, as I mentioned, in terms of driver assistance and in terms of consumer electronics interfacing with music, as I mentioned, and also your phone book. I think that kind of capability where we have the ability to afford that convenience to our consumers is something. I'd say the key introduction is not so much the fact that you can now connect a phone to your car, but that you can democratize the technologies and make it available across all our offerings, all our products, certainly a wide range of products, and some markets, all our products. And we can do this not just for the entertainment aspects, but also for the driver assistance features, all while paying careful attention to the other, I'd say, more basic aspects of the automobile that also call for a lot of electronics and a lot of software that has to do with managing tailpipe emissions, managing fuel consumption. And so there's a lot of electronics, a lot of software, a lot of technology that goes into just ensuring the vehicle does everything that it's required to do by regulation and everything that it's expected to do by the consumer.
What can you say about any of the advancements in the apps and the applications that will be available to drivers in these cars?
I'd say that it's good to sort of look at what's happening in the consumer electronics world and then see what's coming to cars. If you look at placing a phone call, the expectation just a few years ago was you had to look at your phone and dial, and it clearly wasn't a good way to do things. And when you did have some entry or ability to dial through an interface in your car, you had to literally enter or create a new address book on your car. So that's now history, and what we have now is the ability for your phone book to essentially be read through a voice interface or through a screen in the car where it's appropriate and safe to do so. Likewise, searching your music content or your digital content in the broad sense through voice has also been enabled, and so whether you have 1,000 titles or 3,000 titles, that's now accessible through voice. And so these are examples of what's been happening in the consumer electronics world, and that has been forced to change and a real redesign of the automobile interface, in this case forced by what's happening in the consumer electronics world. And so if you look at that, there's a whole set of apps associated with consumer expectations, again, of smartphones. And so one can think of navigation and having that be voice-activated. One can think of applications that allow you to essentially create a virtual radio and access your content your way.
So you're talking about voice recognition. It sounds like that's a really important kind of technology that's being developed. It's also been developed in a lot of other consumer electronics. I mean, that Siri is obviously a really famous product. Are there any separate challenges for developing voice recognition in a car that you wouldn't necessarily have if you were just doing it for a phone or some other kind of situation like that?
Yeah, Keith, I'll sort of, the short answer is yes, but there's a real nice metaphor for this that the technologist will perhaps relate to, and that is a lot of the folks in the communications world have spent a lot of time in what's known as the last mile problem, trying to solve that, and that's going to get broadband to homes. In the car, it's the last inch or the last, if you will, centimeter problem, because a lot of the interfaces that you have on consumer electronics devices are beautiful and elegant and made for 0 kilometers an hour, if you will. They're meant for stationary speeds or very slow speeds, as essentially pedestrians walking around. They're not meant for 100 kilometers an hour type of a speed. And so when you look at any interface, whether it's a touch interface or a voice interface, you have to make the appropriate redesign to enable the user interface capabilities that you normally associate with 0 kilometers an hour speed, stationary speeds. And so in the case of voice recognition or technologies that enable automatic speech recognition, you have to deal with road noise, you have to deal with interior, the fact that you might have your heat ventilation system on, and so the blower noise is a factor. So you get a lot of noise that is in the ambient sort of area, and that then makes speech recognition a challenge, and so you have those kinds of considerations. And so what has happened as a consequence of that is that the areas that were otherwise not considered part of a direct entertainment system or a driver assistance system or a regulated system have also adapted now to enable this. And so vehicles have gotten quieter. Ford vehicles have been remarkably quiet and have been getting increasingly comfortable in every sense, including the reduction of interior noise. And in part, that's enabled better recognition, voice recognition rates. So there's a lot of interesting challenges, but then they result in an enhanced ownership experience.
Outside of these consumer electronics that we've been talking about, what else is Ford going to be introducing at Computex that you're excited about?
Well, we're really, really excited about the introduction of the Mustang, and can't wait to get there and see it appear on stage. And that should be a lot of fun for all of us to see and witness in this 50th year of the Mustang and in the year of the horse for many of us.
We've been speaking to Dr. K. Venkatesh Prasad. He's a senior technical leader, open innovation at Ford Motor Company. Dr. Prasad, thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you very much. My pleasure. Take care.
Thanks for listening to Taiwan Talk. As always, we'd love to hear what you thought of today's program. You can leave us a comment on our Facebook page or rate and review Taiwan Talk on iTunes. This helps us bring you the kind of shows you want to hear and makes it easier for other people to discover the program. For ICRT, I'm Keith Menconi.